The ratings and viewership information for this past weekend's WWE Saturday Night's main event on NBC has been revealed. Timeless Toni Storm comes face-to-face with Mercedes Moné last night on AEW Dynamite after their world title match for All in Texas was confirmed at Double or Nothing. Will Ospreay asks Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland to work together on Dynamite, but Strickland refuses and walks away. Former Stardom wrestler Thekla debuts on AEW Dynamite and attacks Jamie Hayter. The Ops have retained the AEW World Trios Championships on Dynamite last night. Brody King defeats Josh Alexander and advances to the AEW International title match at AEW Fyter Fest. Ricochet teases possibly forming a faction in All Elite Wrestling. Adam Cole retains the AEW TNT Championship on Dynamite by disqualification. Several members of the AEW roster are reportedly banged up following AEW Double or Nothing last Sunday. Several matches and segments are confirmed for Saturday's edition of AEW Collision. The first ever WWE Evolve Women's Champion was confirmed last night on Evolve. Now, Lee Laurel has joined Evolve and has been renamed to Jin Tala. Ace Austin confirms he's a free agent after his TNA Wrestling contract expired. Trick Williams will be defending the TNA World Championship at Against All Odds. Vince McMahon's attorney issues a statement about John Laurinaitis being dismissed as a defendant in the Janelle Grant lawsuit. Trick Williams is confirmed for Thursday's edition of Impact after he won the TNA World Championship last weekend. A positive update on Jim Ross following his recent colon cancer surgery. And the reason Jordan Grace wasn't immediately called up to the main roster has been confirmed. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we begin, you can see right there, we are now over 22,000 subscribers, 22,027 to be specific, here on YouTube. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join the ever-expanding WNU, that being the Wrestling News universe. Let's begin with the ratings and viewership information for Saturday's edition of Saturday Night's main event on NBC. Now, we've got viewership and ratings information for the May 24th episode of WWE Saturday Night's main event. Now, Jedi Goodman is reporting that WWE Saturday Night's main event on May 24th scored 1.969 million viewers on NBC. Now, this is the highest viewership number since the program returned in December. Now, Saturday's episode scored a 0.54 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic. Of course, streaming numbers for Peacock were not available for the return episode back in December. Peacock did 700,000 viewers. We don't know how many they did for the January episode, but with the Peacock viewership, it is expected that it would be comfortably over 2 million total viewers. Now let's go over to AEW Dynamite last night and talk about Timeless Toni Storm facing off with her opponent for All in Texas, Mercedes Moné. Timeless Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné finally met on AEW Dynamite. AEW Women's World Champion Timeless Toni Storm and AEW TBS Champion and the 2025 Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament winner Mercedes Moné closed out the May 28th episode of AEW Dynamite ahead of their showdown at AEW All in Texas. Storm recounted how Mercedes joined AEW on a show named after her and how Mercedes noted that Storm was the reason she wanted to join AEW. Storm asked, "What took you so long?" Mercedes called herself the Beyonce of pro wrestling, and Storm said she's the Toni Storm of pro wrestling. Storm said that Mercedes wants all the titles, but she only needed one, referring to the AEW Women's World title. Storm said that if she wants to ride the Moné train through the Toni Tunnel, she hopes Mercedes can get in deep enough. Mercedes said that Toni's hips weren't strong enough for the Moné train. Mercedes said she was no longer the woman she was 10 years ago because she is no longer a boss, she is now a CEO. Storm said they'd already gotten their flowers, but they left it all behind to become exactly who they were meant to be in AEW. Storm said she believes Mercedes is the greatest of all time, but she is timeless. The two then shook hands and Mercedes tried to strike, but Storm cut her off before Mercedes scampered to the outside. Of course, Mercedes Moné earned a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship at AEW All in Texas by winning the 2025 Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament. Now, speaking of the Owen Hart Cup, when it comes to the men's side of things, we saw last night Swerve Strickland refusing to work with Hangman Adam Page. The May 28th edition of AEW Dynamite was kicked off by a big promo segment with Hangman Page, allowing him to celebrate his big Owen Hart Foundation tournament victory at Double or Nothing. After passionately speaking about his intention to take the AEW World Championship from Jon Moxley at All In, Page was interrupted by Swerve Strickland. Strickland got down to business quick, replaying a video of the Young Bucks saying they costed him the world title to satisfy Page. Following the video, Strickland straight up asked Page if he colluded with the Bucks to prevent him from winning the AEW World Championship. Page fired back by saying that if he wanted to cost him that match, he would have done it himself. Strickland wasn't having any of it, saying that Page is full of shit. Moments later, Will Ospreay hit the ring. Ospreay told Strickland that he's wrong about Page before saying that fans are starting to believe in them again, referencing the recent drop in momentum for the Death Riders. Ospreay pitched for everyone to work together, prompting Strickland to slap the microphone out of his hand. The segment came to a close after Strickland came face to face with Ospreay, telling him that he will never work with Adam Page. And we saw a debut last night of Thekla on AEW Dynamite. Thekla is indeed now all elite. After weeks of subtle spider teases, Thekla started her new web on Wednesday's AEW Dynamite, debuting for the promotion by attacking Jamie Hayter during her in-ring interview segment. After laying out Hayter, Thekla hit her signature spider pose, surprising and spooking all the fans around the world. Of course, as I mentioned, there had been plenty of spider teases in recent weeks, hinting that Thekla was on her way to All Elite Wrestling. The Toxic Spider is mainly known by fans for her time in Stardom, where she is a former Artist of Stardom champion and Goddess of Stardom champion too. Now, it was previously reported that Thekla was indeed signing with AEW earlier this month. The Ops are still the AEW World Trios Champions after Dynamite. Fresh off competing in the Anarchy in the Arena match on Sunday at Double or Nothing, the Ops defended their AEW World Trios Championships on AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. They defeated Ring of Honor's Frat House. Cole Carter, Griff Garrison, and Preston Vance made their way down to the ring with the rest of the faction, including the pledges of their fraternity, after an apparent night of partying in El Paso, Texas. As Jack Jameson raved about their antics on the microphone, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Katsuyori Shibata looked confused. The champions went after their challenges and the bell rang with Joe and Vance starting off the match. Jameson attempted to hit Hobbs with the fraternity paddle, but it didn't go as planned for him and then threw the pledges in the ring one by one as Hobbs took them out. Vance attempted to go after Hobbs with the paddle, but was caught by the referee. Hobbs hit him with a spine buster and followed it up with another Takata for the quick victory. Now, Brody King, he booked his ticket for an international championship match at Fyter Fest. The May 28th edition of AEW Dynamite featured the first match in the AEW International Title Contender Tournament as Brody King faced Josh Alexander in a singles contest. After a brutal back-and-forth contest, King ended up prevailing over Alexander, pinning him after a Lariat Gonzo Bomb combination. As a result, King has now earned a spot in the four-way match for Kenny Omega's AEW International Championship at AEW Fyter Fest. The two other competitors will be decided on Saturday's edition of AEW Collision. Now, could we be getting a faction with Ricochet leading the pack in AEW? Because Ricochet says he's looking for a crew. In a backstage vignette on AEW Dynamite, Ricochet said he's looking at the landscape in AEW and has noticed groups like the Death Riders, the Don Callis family, and the Ops. In noticing the landscape, he feels he needs a group of loyal subjects to help him in his quest for gold in All Elite Wrestling. Of course, Ricochet is coming fresh off a victory over Mark Briscoe in a stretcher match at AEW Double or Nothing this past weekend. Adam Cole is still the AEW TNT champion thanks to a disqualification last night on Dynamite. Adam Cole is still TNT champion after the Don Callis family's Josh Alexander interfered in stablemate Kyle Fletcher's title match on Dynamite. As the Proto-Star and the champion got things off to start off in the bout, Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta attempted to interfere and ran down to get in Cole's face while he was standing on the ring apron, but were run off by Paragons Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly before they could do any damage. Following a commercial break, Cole was in control and leveled his challenger with a pair of elbows. He set Fletcher up for the Panama Sunrise, which Fletcher dodged. Fletcher attempted to regain momentum but was hit with a shoulder breaker and the Panama Sunrise. That's when Alexander appeared and attacked Cole, causing the disqualification. After the bell rang and Alexander was continuing to beat down Cole in the ring, Brody King ran out with a chair to defend the champion. Of course, Alexander and King competed in that AEW International Championship 4-way qualifier match to follow, which of course Brody King was victorious in. Now, coming out of AEW Double or Nothing at the weekend, the AEW roster reportedly, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, is pretty banged up. Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp has confirmed that coming out of AEW Double or Nothing, that the AEW roster is feeling the effects from the show. It was noted to Fightful that a lot of talent are waiting clearances from on-site medical, but the questionable list is as long as it's been in a while. Among those are the Young Bucks, who emerged from Double or Nothing, both hurting. It was feared that Nicholas Jackson sustained a concussion, although that official diagnosis wasn't given to Fightful. For those concerned about Jamie Hayter, Fightful reached out to her and she said she was totally fine with and no worries after the match with Mercedes Moné. Will Ospreay was, of course, on the show at AEW Dynamite last night. He emerged okay from the weekend. Fightful have been told that AEW will likely announce more matches as clearances occur over the following weeks. Now, speaking of matches, AEW Collision is this Saturday, and here's what's on tap for the show. First, Sky Blue will return to singles action for the first time in over 300 days, facing Mina Shirakawa just days after her AEW Double or Nothing loss. Furthermore, the Don Callis family trio, Trent Beretta, Rocky Romero, and Konosuke Takeshita will take on Tomohiro Ishii and Paragon's Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly. Later in the night, it was announced on social media that LFI's Rouge, Beast Mortos, and Dralistico will do battle with the trio of AR Fox, Dante, and Darius Martin. Going over to WWE Evolve, and we've got champions now on WWE's newest brand. Callie Armstrong made history on the May 28th episode of WWE Evolve, becoming the first ever WWE Evolve Women's Champion. Armstrong defeated Wendy Chu, Kylie Ray, and Kendall Gray in a 4-way elimination bout. Chu was first eliminated by Ray, followed by Gray, who was eliminated by her opponent. Armstrong finished off Ray with the Callie connection. Natalya presented Armstrong with the WWE Evolve Women's title after the match was said and done. Keeping with Evolve, and we've got a signing on the brand too. Lee Laurel has joined WWE Evolve under a new name. Lee Laurel from WWE LFG signed with WWE Evolve on the May 28th episode. She is now going by a new name of Jin Tala. She will face Carly Bright on the June 4th episode of WWE Evolve. Of course, as I mentioned, she was involved in WWE LFG Season 1. Ace Austin, he has confirmed that he is now officially a free agent and is done with TNA Wrestling. After spending the last 6 years of his career as a member of the TNA Wrestling talent roster, Ace Austin is indeed now a free agent. He confirmed his status with a post on X saying, quote, "Change is inevitable. It's not a matter of if, but when. Free agent." Now, former TNA president Scott D'Amore was the first to report the news about Austin finishing up with TNA. He published a note about it in his written column on Uncrowned. Now, Austin was featured on the May 22nd TNA Impact, and he was defeated and attacked post-match by Mustafa Ali. Austin was subsequently pulled from the Undersea show that took place the following day. He is being advertised for Scott D'Amore's Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling event on July 5th. Keeping with TNA, and a TNA World Championship defense has been confirmed for Trick Williams. Tommy Dreamer has discussed Trick Williams being the brand new TNA World Champion. The main event of NXT's Battleground Premium Live event saw Joe Hendry defend the TNA World Championship against Trick Williams. In the end, Williams emerged victorious, and for the first time, a WWE contracted talent is in possession of a TNA title. TNA creative team member Tommy Dreamer discussed the title switch on Busted Open. He mentioned that in the lead up to Battleground, there were holes in TNA's weekly show because they were taping for the future without knowing what the future entailed. He spoke about how before Battleground, there were conversations about promoting Against All Odds on June 6th, but they didn't know who the world champion was going to be. Trick Williams is scheduled to defend the title against Mike Santana on next week's episode of NXT, just days out from Against All Odds. Dreamer confirmed that there will be a TNA World title match at Against All Odds. He said, quote, "Like I said, it's uncharted territory because you don't know. There were holes left in the show because TNA had to take back-to-back episodes before NXT Battleground happened, and you're kind of taping what's going to happen in the future when you don't know what's going on creatively. It's really hard." However, when you leave holes in your show, also not to spoil stuff for the crowd, you have to go out of your way to do that because, I mean, honestly, we just saw something get spoiled by the WWE where everyone was up in arms about it with something with AAA. But you really have to go out of your way when things like that happen. And there's also things sometimes that are out of your control, which sucks because if you make arrangements, and I'm not talking about leaks, I'm talking about stuff like whether it's digital, whether it's that TNA has Against All Odds, where we have to be like, well, who do we promote when we have 2 weeks going into this show of who's going to face who without it going to be giving away to the crowd? So it's a lot of moving parts, but I will tell you this, the TNA World title will be defended at Against All Odds, but who is the talent that going to be to step up and take that title home? It happened before with AEW, a totally different time with totally different ramifications, so it's a thing. Dreamer went on to state that he knows one talent who was initially penciled in to face Hendry for the TNA World title at Against All Odds. Quote, I know one wrestler, like for Against All Odds, who was going to be facing Joe Hendry for the World title, and he has a gripe. He put it on social media. As for Williams being the champion, Dreamer heaped praise onto him. He added that one of his concerns is WWE wanting Williams on the main roster while he's still in possession of the title. He feels that could put the TNA World title in flux. Quote, you know what else I fear, or you have to think about? What if Trick gets called up tomorrow? And then they say, well, he can't defend it, even though Trick said he wants to defend it, but he has another boss. These are just telling you behind the scenes things, right? And so if he gets called up, then what? Do we have a new champ? Are they going to vacate the title? These are all back of your mind you have to think of. I love Trick. I love Trick's work. I've been a fan since day one. I've loved his ascent to the top of the business. I think the TNA World title being on Trick Williams helps Trick, helps TNA, helps NXT. Now, we've got a statement from Vince McMahon's attorney after the latest developments in the Janelle Grant lawsuit came yesterday. Now, a statement was issued to Post Wrestling on May 28th that John Laurinaitis was dismissed from the sex trafficking lawsuit that former WWE employee Janelle Grant filed against Laurinaitis, Vince McMahon, and WWE. Now, Laurinaitis was voluntarily dismissed with prejudice. Post Wrestling say they've received a new statement from McMahon's attorney, Jessica Rosenberg, who sent the following, quote, today's dismissal of John Laurinaitis as a defendant doesn't alter the facts of this case in any way. Vince McMahon never mistreated Janelle Grant. No matter how many press releases her team issues, the truth remains unchanged. As Mr. Laurinaitis' lawyer previously said, Mr. Laurinaitis corroborates Mr. McMahon in publicly declaring that Miss Grant's allegations of sexual abuse and coercion in her complaint are completely unfounded, end quote. Of course, Grant first filed the lawsuit in January of 2024. As more updates become available, we'll let you know in future videos. Going back to TNA Wrestling, and a Trick Williams appearance is confirmed for this week's edition of TNA Impact. TNA Wrestling have announced that brand new TNA World Champion, NXT superstar Trick Williams, will speak on the May 29th episode of TNA Impact. Trick won the title from Joe Hendry at NXT Battleground. He is set to defend the title against Mike Santana on the June 3rd episode of WWE NXT next week. Now we have a positive update on AEW commentator and WWE Hall of Famer good old JR Jim Ross. JR underwent colon surgery on Tuesday, May 27th, and the hope is that all of the cancer has been removed. Ross's Grilling JR podcast partner, Conrad Thompson, provided the following updates on the AEW announcer. Quote, just heard from Raphael Morphy that JR's surgery went well, and they hope to have successfully removed all of his cancer this morning. Please keep JR in your thoughts and prayers as he begins his recovery. Now, Ross noted ahead of undergoing surgery that he would be in hospital for 6 days. JR stated on his podcast that he isn't planning to retire. Quote, I'm thinking I'll really slow down after the surgery. I'll talk to the doctor and see what he says. I'll try to really slow down when this is over, make a few autograph appearances, which I love to do, and see what Tony Khan's got ready for me in AEW. I could still do my schedule I had, but I don't know if anybody else believes that. I believe it. I would still love to do the pay-per-views in AEW, but I don't know if Tony will want me on. I don't know, Ross said. Now, Ross, a 50-year veteran of the industry, has been a commentator for All Elite Wrestling since 2019. He has suffered from multiple health issues in recent years. And finally, Jordan Grace seemingly is on her way to the main roster in WWE, but why wasn't she actually just going straight to Raw or SmackDown when she signed with the company? Now, Jordynne Grace is set to officially join WWE's main roster after a whistle-stop tour of NXT, with Grace believed to be heading to the main roster imminently. Grace joined WWE in early 2025 after officially departing TNA Wrestling, with many at the time expecting the Juggernaut to go straight to the main roster after several appearances in the Women's Royal Rumble match. As to why Grace spent the guts of 4 months in NXT before her call-up, Corey Hayes on X suggests WWE didn't want to throw Grace onto the roster so close to WrestleMania season without any concrete creative plans. It has been suggested that Grace is set to join SmackDown, with Stephanie Vaquer expected to join Raw, with Grace's full-time run in NXT looking likely to end just 9 matches in a little over 3 months. Grace has been one of several high-profile signings to WWE's women's roster over the past year, with Grace, Vaquer, and Julia breathing new life into the NXT women's division ahead of expected high-profile runs on the main roster. Julia was recently caught up alongside former 2-time NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez, with the two officially joining the main roster post-WrestleMania 41. But there you go, guys, the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As you can see right there, we're at 22,027 subscribers. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Join the ever-expanding WNU. In addition, you can become a member of the WN365 roster. You can click the link in the video description below, click the join button, or scan the QR code when it appears in the sidebar. Speaking of the sidebar, you can see all upcoming live shows we've got here at WrestleNews 365. That includes WWE and AAA Worlds Collide and WWE Money in the Bank watch-alongs and post-shows at the beginning of June. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming. Wherever you come across this video today, be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.